Hello and welcome into the KE Report. Chad and Corey here, getting an update on Blackrock Silver, traded on the TSX.V under the ticker BRC and on the OTCQX under the ticker BKRRF. And we're joined today with the president and CEO of Blackrock Silver, Andrew Pollard. And Andrew, it's great to get you back on the show for an update on Blackrock Silver. Got some big news you've just put out to the market about the drill program for this year, 20,000 meters, about 50 drill holes at the Tonopah West Project. For people listening in, this project is located in the Walker Lane Trend of Western Nevada, very near Tonopah. But before we dig into this year's program, Andrew, I'd love you just to give us a quick snapshot and recap of all the work the team has done up to now, the resources you've already built, and all the drilling that you did up till present.
My goodness, aren't you a sound for sore ears? It's been a while, so very good to be back here. Yeah, listen, it was 4 years ago this week that we were still waiting to see if we had a discovery on our hands. We were waiting on our first drill holes. And, here we are 4 years later. We've now sketched out not only a discovery, but what's turning into be a very large, high-grade ore body following our last resource, which we put out at the end of October of last year. And we've gone from discovery to ore body, and in the last 6 months, we're now looking at actual operation. So we've been behind the scenes, working with a whole myriad of different consultants, sketching out not just how much larger we can get this resource to grow, and there's a lot of low-hanging fruit for us, but also looking at, just what sort of an operation this is going to be, in terms of just given the grade profile we got, we're pretty certain we've hit that threshold that this is going to be a very low cost, high margin operation. We've been picking off all the low hanging fruit we can in terms of de-risking the project, both fundamentally, but also in terms of the market's perception of this. And, following that, as you just mentioned, we're gearing up for our next big push on the drills, which is going to be dual focused. We're dual focused on locking in a whole lot more exploration upside, which is fairly low-hanging fruit from our perspective. We're just drilling in between two known areas along the same vein corridor. So we're just filling in the gaps, trying to add another kilometer or so of strike. And then we're going back and we've taken our understanding of what this eventual mine will one day look like, and we're going to go and start converting our inferred resources to the M&I category, sequentially focused on the first veins that you'd hit once you go underground. So effectively the early mining scenarios here.
Let's talk about that, I guess, first objective then, the converting the higher grade silver and gold from the inferred to measured and indicated. News release says 1 million tons is the target that you're looking at here. You're going to 25-meter spacings. What sort of grade do you have in the inferred category that you're looking to convert?
Well, one of the best things that's emerged out of this deposit is what looks to be our highest grade known structure, our Bermuda vein, also happens to be our shallowest structure, and it's right where we're envisioning to put the decline. So to give you perspective, Bermuda, currently in the inferred category alone is 1.3 million tons, and it's over 620 grams per ton silver equivalent. That's north of 300, just about 300 grams silver and 3.5 grams gold. To put that in perspective, just on the inferred basis, just our silver grade alone there is 50% higher than our cutoff grade, let alone the gold credit we'd be getting too. So we're going back, we're going to start drilling right from the start and look to tighten up that spacing there. And, as inferred drilling goes, this is already one of our most tightly drilled out areas of the project. We're not starting from particularly wide spacing to begin with. That area is probably 60 to 70 meter spacing that we're working from here. So we're just going in and just tightening up the spacing. And we're also going to be following up the up dip portion of the Bermuda vein towards surface, because our highest grade intercept ever at the company came at the shallowest part of our drilling there, and that was about 190 meters below surface, and we've never actually followed that up. So what the conversion drilling is going to do is it's going to give us the ability to get a lot of mileage out of these meters. We've got 40 drill holes planned between, say, 190 meters and 380 meters, some beyond where the last resource left off, so hopefully we'll hit some new tons. But also by going back and drilling in between where the inferred resource drilling is, that should see our average grade naturally ratchet up, as long as, just assuming we hit similar grades we've already seen. We don't have to hit higher grades for our average grade to ratchet up simply because we won't be penalized as much on an inverse distance cube basis when it comes to the M&I resource. So that's going to be very fun drilling for us. We're looking forward to seeing what that brings, especially on the Bermuda vein itself. Simply because, I mean, if our highest grade structure and our shallowest structure is also the one that you're going to hit as soon as you get underground, then that's going to have a huge positive consequence for any economics moving forward. I mean, certainly when it comes to payback, that alone would be the stake of the deposits, and every vein after that would be the gravy.
Yeah, Andrew, that's a great point. I mean, the fact that it's the highest grade veins and nearest surface, if you start the mining sequence there, that's just so good on the project economics when you look at a development scenario. I guess just thinking about the development scenario, I know you're still doing some work on the background, but as you're drilling this Merten vein and Bermuda veins, these high grade areas, how will this tie into most of the resources that are at the DPB and Northwest Step Out areas and Victor areas? How does this all tie together into a development scenario? Would you be looking at doing an upgraded resource after this and then another economic study? Just kind of walk us through what the thinking is as you bring some of this drilling into an upgraded resource.
Yeah, well, we're advancing things on both fronts. There's a lot more drilling left to do to get the project to where it's going to end up. I mean, I don't know what the upside target is in terms of, or potential is for the deposit, because it's still wide open to the northwest beyond the expansion drilling we're doing on this program. So who knows? I also know that it's going to grow in 3 dimensions. There's certain large areas of our deposit, like our Victor vein system, which was the last producing mine in the district, which we've effectively drilled about there as much as we possibly can from surface, because we're having to navigate through, across 5 different levels of workings in that area. But we know we're nowhere near the bottom of that system. But what we have right now is a good broad stroke idea of what an operation will look like. And we've got enough there to start planning. We can start looking at things like site infrastructure, the placement of decline, the initial mine planning, the placement of where the process plant and mill would go, the placement of dry stack tailings, for example. All these things that we're able to check off concurrently with this drill program. In addition, there's still some large items we're waiting on to hear over the summer from a metallurgy point of view. We're trying to hammer out our process flow sheet, for example. We're testing different grind sizes. We're looking at potential gravity circuit. All of those things not only might add to our recoverable ounce inventory. I mean, it'd be great if we could see some incremental gains by squeaking out a few more percentage points on the recoveries. And the recoveries are already quite good. I mean, we're averaging 87% for silver and 95% for gold. But, you're always looking at ways to optimize that. And, other things too, like hydrology studies, environmental studies. So there's lots of things that don't need to wait for other things to be advanced concurrently. And that's really what we've been focused on. The conversion drilling will be quick and fun, I think, from our point of view. And then that's going to increase the confidence and the continuity probably across the whole deposit, but certainly in that main area. And then we'll evaluate where things are at that time. But, the pictures, every month, when we have our meetings, our picture about what sort of operation this can be gets refined that much clearer, and the color is bright, I'll put it that way.
So, Andrew, will you be updating the economics then after this infill program, especially around this high grade area?
Well, we've never put out economics. So, to get the economics, you need to get a better understanding of the cost going into the processing, for example. You need to get an understanding of all these things. So I think that's definitely on our radar. I think certainly by this time next year, not only would we have a new resource, but we'd also have an initial PEA. In terms of timing for both of those or sequence of both of those, that's still unknown.
Well, Andrew, I'm sure some people listening will also be wondering, what is the prospectivity for making new discoveries still in this? Because some of these veins that you're following up with are really just extending them, like you say, along strike and at depth. But are there any other targets your team would like to get to that are just some new targets on this area?
Well, listen, if from a viability and economic point of view, if we can keep drilling out extensions, that's the best case scenario you could possibly have, because it'll be all part of the same development. I mean, I'm not really interested in going on treasure hunts right now for standalone targets kilometers and kilometers away when we've got big gaps in our current vein corridor. I'll put it in a perspective this way. Our 100 million ounces that we've got right now represents 3 different areas for a cumulative strike total of about 2.5 kilometers. Now we can fill in a kilometer gap, so turn it to 3.5 kilometers of one cohesive vein corridor. That's far more appealing spend of money for us, as it'll bolt right on to any existing mine plan, any development plan we'd have, and make it that much cheaper to access. The prospectivity, certainly to the northwest, is very exciting. We encountered a very deep top of a porphyry towards the northwestern boundary of our patented claims there, which we haven't followed up and tried to drill into the guts to. And that could be the boiler of the entire system, because all the veins seem to be falling right into it. So that could be a completely different system. In addition, the whole system itself is controlled by the vein system wants to go along the margin of the caldera, which, the blow off top of a volcano. And we've got another 20 kilometers or so of BLM claims that directly adjoin to our patents, where our current resource area is and focus is. And that's where the caldera margin is seen to swing around. So we think that area is still highly prospective for new discoveries to be made. But right now, the easy money for us, the clear upside for us, is just filling in the gaps and increasing the confidence on the ounces we currently do have.
So how much is this all going to cost, Andrew? The company just raised through a bought deal financing over $10 million at the tail end of May. What's the budget for this program? How much do you have left over to potentially go after some of these other targets?
So yeah, we did a bought deal in May where Eric Sprott came in for just under half of that. And that was actually quite significant for us, because he effectively doubled his position in us, and he's finally above reporting thresholds. And, he's a good shareholder, because once he reported, it was seen that he hasn't sold a single share in the 4 years since he started investing in us. Budget for this, 20,000 meters. That's about $5.5 million US or so, which will leave us money left over from there. And we've yet to touch any of that money we've raised either. I mean, we're still sitting on some from our financing in January. So, in terms of, we'll follow the results from this program first before we plan any follow-ups anywhere else. There's no point planning new stuff until we can get a sense of how this drilling is going. But I think it's going to make for a good 6 to 9 months worth of news flow on our front. And in the interim, we'll have other de-risking initiatives, which we'll start to be able to convey to the market as well. So I think the market perception of this project, both in terms of economic viability and resource upside, is going to become crystal clear, certainly over the next 6 months. I mean, we're cashed up. We're in a better position than we've been, more institutional support than we've ever had. That financing was off the charts demand just in the first 30 minutes of announcing it. So we're in a good position, but I think what everyone wants to see is us walk this forward meaningfully. And this is our first big sustained push on the drills in a long time. And I'm excited to see where it gets us.
All right, Andrew. Well, we'll wrap it up there. But if people want to follow along with the news from Blackrock Silver, definitely click on the link below this interview. It takes you over to the company news section. You can follow along with the news as the drill results start coming back in. And Andrew, keep us posted on more news. We'll get you back on the show for an update. And as always, looking forward to our next conversation.
Thanks very much. Yeah, great to be here. Cheers.